I want to talk about something I learned in TfL's policy update, which is called a Certificate of Good Conduct. Now, I'm a little bit late to get this video out. This might not apply to the majority of cab drivers, but it's still faff for those it does apply to. So that's why I found it quite important to put this out. And why I bring it up is because it's a policy that's going to diminish the kind of ultimate freedom of being a London taxi driver. And I'm not too sure why it applies to our industry more than other industries. When you become a London cab driver, you apply, you have to do the whole application pack that goes to Transport for London. You also have to do a disclosure service, like a criminal record check. But insert this certificate of good conduct. Let me read what the TfL directive says. Since 1st of July 2024, all new and renewing applicants for taxi and private hire licences who have lived in a country other than the UK for one or more continuous periods of 3 months or more in the last 10 years must complete a living abroad details form, TPH 205. They will then be asked to produce a CoGC, Certificate of Good Conduct, from every relevant country to cover the period declared in the form. There is no longer an exclusion for periods of extended holiday vacation, so any period of 3 months or more must be declared. Now you might think, Tom, this is hardly going to affect anyone. It's just going to be the odd canary cab driver who does 6 months in Spain. He's just got to trundle down to Belgrave Square, get his certificate of good conduct whenever he renews his licence, or she, and no bother. You do this every time you renew. It's not like as soon as you come back from holiday, you have to produce this form and say, hi, I was out the country. This is my certificate of good conduct. I was a good boy. And that's what this is, basically. It's to prove that you wasn't up to any... You know, you leave the country and all of a sudden you've become a criminal. Like, your UK record is exemplary, fine. Leave the country, you become a criminal. Who knows what you do abroad? And I guess it shows you that there's a slight problem in the criminal record proceedings that they have no idea what you do outside the country. Hence the need for this form. Now, when I was away travelling earlier this year, thankfully my trip was only 2.5 months. It could have been 3 months. I did kind of forecast that. And if I did... well, I don't know what the hell I would have done. There's a bit in this TfL directive. What is a certificate of good conduct and how do I get one? A certificate of good conduct is an extract from the judicial record or equivalent document issued by a competent judicial or administrative authority for the relative country. Ooh, that's a mouthful. It should document any convictions recorded against the individual or confirm good conduct. It must be provided in English and it can be obtained via the relevant embassy, consulate or high commission in the UK. So I basically would go to the Thai embassy, go get one from there. I went to Vietnam, I'd go on there. And they've even said that the Home Office has published guidance, including contact details of how to apply for criminal record checks for the time spent abroad. However, I can't find one for the Embassy of Laos. You go on the government website, you get all the way down to L, it's not there. This is what I mean, you're having to deal with like competent-ish countries. They have got an embassy in London, which is Porchester Terrace. So maybe I just have to go knock on the front door and say, hi, can I have this little certificate that proves I was a good boy for the 14 days or so I was in your country. And it's bizarre because this has never been implemented. This is like the first time. And it's actually backdated to 10 years. So I'd be really interested to see, maybe the Freedom of Information Act, to know that now they've implemented this, how many like criminals are going to come out of the woodwork here? Because there's a whole 10 years that potentially drivers could have been going abroad and doing dodgy things, presumably. Remember, this applies to taxi drivers and private hire drivers. So there's potentially about 130,000, if not more, people that could have these dodgy criminal record backgrounds. But what kind of makes a mockery of the whole thing and why I can't wrap my head around it is that it's like, if I was like an international criminal mastermind, then I would just not go away for more than 3 months. Like, I was away for 2.5 months. So you leave the country. And that's the thing, you can just hop back to the UK, very similar to how you would do like a visa border run in some of these countries. If your visa is coming to expire, you leave the country for a day, go somewhere else, and then come back to the country and you just get a new visa. And it's the same here, that 2 months, 3 weeks, fly back to the UK for a week, and then you just go back. And I imagine that could be a way that some of the canary cab drivers might want to do this. More than anything, it's just so annoying because it's already quite an exclusive job in the hoops that we have to jump through to become London cab drivers. And then to have this thrown at us, it's almost like they don't trust us to kind of even leave the country. I know this has come about from a directive from government, statutory taxi and private hire standards as of 2022. And then, of course, every licensing authority can do what they wish to kind of go above and beyond that statutory guidance, as we've seen here, because there's no mention of this 3-month certificate of good conduct within this. But, this is only the beginning, let's face it. What's then to say that this 3 months then going to go down to 2 months, 1 month, and then maybe it comes to the point where every time you go abroad, you're going to have to produce one of these forms. Like, it's one of the ultimate freedoms of the job is that you can come and go as you like. That's why I went traveling early this year. I didn't have to say to a boss that I was going away on holiday, and I didn't have to tell him when I was coming back. I just did it off my own back. But now, I've really got to think about it. I can't do it for more than 3 months. And it also makes me think, like, what other workplace would do this? We've already got to have a criminal record check anyway, but I can't think of many other sort of workplaces or practice or industries that kind of almost want to follow you around the world and see what you're doing. Let's look at my example of travel. Let's say I went over 3 months. I was out of the UK for more than 3 months, and I travelled through Laos, but it was only for like 1 or 2 days, kind of an insignificant number, right? Maybe just transiting through the country. Well, have I still got to go to the Laotian embassy, which we've already found is quite difficult to get one of these certificate of good conducts, presumably, according to the government websites? Or do you just leave off the form entirely? But then you could potentially lose your license because you've not told them where you've been within that 3-month span, even though it's just one small trip, insignificant thing. I don't know. Maybe I'm overreacting here, but is this justified? I'd love to know your thoughts and opinions on this, or if you can draw on any examples where this might exist in other industries or professions. If you've enjoyed this, I highly recommend checking out this video where I share the occupational hazards I have to deal with on a day-to-day basis to ensure I keep my livelihood. That will be here.